Hello, Fix-It Tony here. Thank you for coming back for another video. Today I am going to be replacing my EGR valve, my exhaust gas recirculation valve. It's buried underneath this intake manifold, I guess. And there's also, you can just, the EGR valve is sort of over here. When removing this air intake piece, things you have to keep in mind is that there is a air temperature sensor right here. So you got to take that out and protect it. And then you have two 10mm nuts. These are nuts, so you have to be careful so that they don't fall into the engine bay. It's best just to go one at a time so you don't fumble with it. Take your time. I think that's the key message for any of this car work, is take your time. So now that this is undone, I want to swing my camera around and highlight the next thing we have to do. Is loosen the hose clamp where this little bushing comes, where this air intake connects into the throttle body, I guess. And there's a small hose clamp right there. You're going to have to come in through the front and hook up with that hose clamp screw. There's not a lot of torque on there. And you have to remember there's a couple of nipples or bibs that connect to this upper valve cover body. So then it's just a gentle lift, and that's it. So there are two exhaust gas recirculation elements. There's the shutoff valve that does something, and I'm going to consider replacing this, but first I'm going to replace this EGR valve here that's original. And it's connected through a vacuum line here, so I'll be disconnecting this vacuum hose and removing this hose completely so that I can have free access to basically two compression fittings, one right here in the front and one in the back. In order to loosen up these compression fittings, I'm going to have to put one wrench on the actual EGR valve and then the other one on the coupler and work it that way. So there's not a lot of room. I may have to come in from the bottom. So we'll just sort of see about how that's all going to play out. So as part of the process, I'm going to take this nut off. I'm not sure if there's a washer, but let's see here. Focus. There's the nut that attaches the EGR. I got to reuse that. I'm going to sort of try to clean this up a little bit so that it spins a little easier. The new EGR valve for my 1994 C280 W202 chassis, I think I have a 104 engine type. This is the part number. And this is what a new EGR valve looks like. And you can see that there's one bolt that will attach this unit to the side, and I'm going to have to get that bolt out too. But what, I don't know exactly how it works, but there's a vacuum line, there's a little valve here, and that controls how much exhaust gas gets recirculated back into the engine and how much it doesn't. If it gets stuck open or closed, or if it gets clogged, it does influence fuel efficiency, rough idle, etc. I have the original. It was cleaned 2 years ago, but that was just a stopgap until I decided to get a new valve. All right, so I'm going to start by loosening the compression nut in the back. I had to use a clawfoot 22 millimeter to grab onto the EGR valve. As you can see, it's pretty tedious to take out the nut, but just keep working on it and be patient. All right. I'm going to put some penetrating oil here and there, just to give a little bit of lubrication to that nut, because it's a real pain in the butt right now. The other thing I'm going to need to do, I forgot to tell you, is where this pipe down here, it connects to the exhaust manifold, and I'm going to need to remove this pipe too so that I can lift this up and out. So I'm setting up this shot for this pipe right here. So I have a 19 millimeter clawfoot. Basically it's one of those, I'll show you later. So that's on the bottom holding the wrench tight. All right, a flexible extension was not a good idea. There. Hopefully you saw that crack. Yep, I can do it by hand. And then I gotta just wiggle that up. Okay. There, that's off. And then all right, I wanted to give you guys an update on what I've been struggling with. So remember, that part of the engine gets really hot, and I was able to pull off that particular nipple, and that's what this pipe looks like. So you can see the nature of the so this here was really dried and stuck, and it was very hard. So this piece right here, this collar, this sort of metal collar, you can see how it was spinning, and the pipe was spinning and this was stuck inside. So basically, once I put some vice grips right on this outer edge here, and I was able to pop it out, and it came out pretty easily. But you can see how this could be a challenge to get back in. So what I'm having a trouble with now here is this particular pipe's got a tight elbow, so I can't draw that nut any further back in order to squeeze my vice grips in there. I'm putting creeping oil to try to hopefully get in between this little collar and the inside of the EGR valve to yank it out and pull it out. So that's kind of what I'm working on right now. and I'll just be struggling with it and pulling it out just to give you a sense. Well, I got the bugger off. Let's see here. Basically what I had to do was I took a little screwdriver and I was banging it against the nut to create a little bit more space. I put a little bit more oil in there, and then I just twisted this up and down and it popped out. So basically you just got to use your ingenuity to get this one off. I wonder if I should put this one in first. Like this. And then make it loose. And then pop that in. So we'll see. Let's see how that works. Yeah, I think what you got to be careful of here. Let me see. Are you catching this? Yeah. So here's what I think you got to be careful of. I think you want to anchor this bolt in first. Attach this to here. Get all these loosely finger tight, because you don't want to start tightening things one at a time, because you may lose alignment. So I think what I'm going to do if I can finger tighten them like 4 or 5 turns, then I know it's lining up. So I tried putting this bolt in, but it's not quite fitting. It's not aligning because this EGR valve is a little bit to the back. So what I'm going to do is I need to draw this in by tightening that nut here. All right, I want to support this. So all right, I finished tightening the compression fittings. I didn't bother having you watch me that whole tightening process. I just tightened it as tight as I can, and I'm hoping it's going to be okay. So now I'm just in the process of replacing the hose, putting the hose back. I'm going to be putting a new hose in. I figured I have the extra hose. Why not use new hose? And I'm just going to put that in as far in as possible. It's definitely tighter than the old hose. So what I'm using is a braided fuel line hose as this vacuum line. I got new hose clamps. Let's see if I can do it with these vice grips. There. There. That's in there. All right, that's connected. Well, I reassembled my air intake. My mass airflow sensor is put back, and I put a new air filter in. So now I'm just going to listen to the engine and see how it's running, and I'll let you listen for yourself as well. So that's about it. Thank you very much for watching this video. Please like and subscribe.